We're back.
We accept the challenge of providing dangerous, thought-provoking, and sometimes controversial insights into life's most common topics.
I don't know why I packed the hollow points.
Did you just say hollow points?
Yeah. Probably should have brought a super soaker.
Get questions that's not pertaining to professional careers, it's more personal lives and all different types of things. But the question I keep getting from men of all ages is what does a woman want? What do they really want from me? Where should I work? If I want to find a good woman, where should I put my focus? And I turned to DMX to see what they really want. And I realized he named a lot of names and stuff, you know, Pam, Lakeisha, and all them, but he never answered the question.
I think what
How
confused
can we
me,
answer this?
what confused me about the DMX situation, I was kind of in line with what I thought women wanted from him until he added Cisco. And these are two different types of niggas. So it's not the same type of woman that should be wanting DMX and Cisco.
Why not?
So that
why
why
shouldn't
not?
it be? Why shouldn't it be a universal standard?
Man,
What you think, Cisco, because of the platinum hair?
yeah, him being pocket size, yes.
His size had something to do with what he provides.
He was too old to be that short.
Oh. That makes absolutely no sense, but carry on.
You'll see it. You'll get it.
So if you 80, you should be 7 feet tall. Go ahead.
No, the situation was that was confusing that both of them had the same sentiment, but it did lead to the idea of what are women looking for? And obviously, women are not a singular diaspora. So they represent so many different things, and especially Black women, they all over the gambit, and that's a good thing for diversity. But the idea of if you're a man and you want to know how can I prepare myself, so therefore when I do find it a wife, I'm strapped and I'm ready, that's a hard sell because I see inconsistencies in what women think they want. And the term think is very, very pivotal here. And so what we decided to do was reach out randomly to women and ask them, hey, what are the top 5 qualities you think are exhibited by a good man? And then they gave us those answers. And I can say this, 80% of the women gave more than 5 because that's just the nature of women. They do what the hell they want to do. But we took the top 5 things and we went, man, the want too muches. You ain't lying. And so in the idea of what they think they want, we categorized them scientifically because we nerds, you know, at the core, and said, okay, here are the women in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and the 50s who we collected information from. And here's a subset of the things that they said they wanted. And then we did almost like, a Venn diagram and crossed over the things that they had in common. But what we thought was going to be a simple, these are the top 5, it became very, very different, very, very desperate in the idea of what women find to be that one smoking gun or that one singular quality, especially through the ages of these women. And not all of them were single, not all of them were married. It was a good hodgepodge of different opinions. But in the idea of what women wanted, it was all over the place. So what we're doing today is we are going to go through the list that we were able to pull together. Keep in mind, these is random women from different states, different, obviously different ages, different education levels, different experiences in love. Like they was just asked questions and they gave their responses. We put them on paper and that's how it all played out. But what we wanted to do was bring a female perspective or two from a panel type situation to help us identify or interpret what these women are trying to say when they're talking about a good man. Because the one thing that historically has happened is ain't no good men out here. They all married and gay. All these other, stereotypes that exist that make it hard on men. And women think it's just hard to find a good one. Well, damn, imagine if you're a good one trying to stay a good one and you don't know how to present yourself or how to, position your situation to be successful. So to hopefully by the end of this, you'll get our points on what women think they want in a good man, and you'll be able to discern what you want in a good man. Therefore, you can start projecting that and giving that off. Or if you a dude, you can start preparing yourself for all of this confusion. So,
did you say that they were married and gay?
No, that's what they say. They say ain't no. Help me with the saying, ladies. What is the saying about ain't no good men out here?
They're either married or gay.
Okay. Oh, he had the and in there. I get what you did.
No, that's what you said. I had to.
Oh, my bad.
I couldn't move on until we cleared
Okay,
that
you're
up.
right. I don't stand off there, but when I do, I stand corrected. So,
I thought
cool.
I was gonna be Magic Johnson's son.
No, man, stop this. So what we'll do is I want to start off. I think the best way to go is to first start off with the end results, and then we'll go in reverse order to talk about which woman gave which inputs that led to the end results. So, ladies, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk to you about the top 5 things that came out of our study. And we had over 30 some odd respondents, and they gave their genuine answers. And so the top thing that women said they wanted was honesty based off the statistics. The second thing was loyalty. The third thing was humor or being funny. Fourth was intelligence. And fifth was communication. So ironically, honorable mention was God-fearing and money. So I'm going to ask y'all, when y'all see this, and I know y'all can see this, here, when y'all see this, which one do you not agree with? Or which one would you, and anybody can go in any order, which one would you have put as, would you thought would have been the consensus number 1, 2?
Yeah,
So if you had a 1, 2 that you thought was a consensus 1, 2, would it be honesty and loyalty? And how are they not the same thing? But that's neither here nor there. I'm gonna let y'all, because y'all women, so y'all.
Can you blow it up a little bit?
Yeah, I can. Absolutely.
I would like to. I want to start with Sean.
Okay. Go ahead. Give it
two. Top
Okay.
2 or 3 if you got a case of 1 too muches.
Well, she was gonna do it anyway, because that's the nature of women. You say one thing, and they be like, "The hell with that." I'm gonna do my thing. All right, let me get.
So, when
All right,
you
here we
went to
go.
the bottom, and you said the top 2 out of the 5 that's at the bottom. I'm trying to see it because I'm looking for my phone.
First, I would say, would you agree with that top 5?
And I can read them off to you again. And so
I
1
see
was
it.
honesty, 2 was loyalty. Okay, cool. What would you have thought would have been, before you seen this shit, what would you have thought would have been top 2 things all women should want in a good man?
God-fearing would have been 1.
Okay.
And probably because you say I got, I'm part dude. So thinking a woman would be money. That's what I would have
Money.
thought.
So the 2 that didn't make the top 5 is the shit that should have. Okay,
That's
all right.
what I would have thought would have been up there. That's what I
One
would
of
have
these
thought.
kids is doing their own thing. I'm
Own
telling
thing. You ain't lying. Okay.
So
All right, Kendra,
what does-
wait a second. I need to get a baseline of the top 2s now that we done went this direction. What would you have thought would have been the top 2, Kendra?
Money.
Before you saw this.
Money and honesty.
Okay, cool. Jazz, you.
So money, but I would have said it as stable.
Okay.
And that second one, it depends on the person, to be completely honest. But I can only go for me on that because that list is a little convoluted, in my opinion.
Okay.
But high integrity. So I guess that kind of goes with honesty and loyalty, but that's more all inclusive because, honesty and loyalty is kind of the same in my book.
Obviously, it's a significant surprise that money didn't make top 5 to y'all. Was all these women lying?
Yes.
Oh,
I think so.
I think they all lying.
I think that's very ironic that they said money and honesty because the honesty was not in this list. I think they were afraid it was going to go somewhere.
Wow.
I think honesty probably was not in the list because it's a given. Like you expect a person, man or woman, to be honest. So when you think about givens, you don't think about it as, it's almost like a common sense thing. Money, that's an iffy thing, and I would go to think that maybe it was on a lower end, depending on the age range. When you're looking at a more mature woman, she's already in her career, she's doing her thing, so maybe it's not a top priority. So maybe I shouldn't have said they're all lying, but it's still a what I want to say, it's still a factor because when I'm at a certain level in my career and I'm making a certain amount of money, it's going to be a determining factor if I'm talking to someone who's at that same level, or if I'm willing to sacrifice and talk to someone who's making less than me for some of these other qualities.
So all of y'all, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And so, kind of to piggyback off of that, I think the reason I say stable instead of just money in general, and for me, I broke stable down into different categories, but we're going to stick with the financial part. I agree. Whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it doesn't matter. You don't want anyone that's a liability. So financial, if they did not mention that, like I said, they were probably figuring like, okay, somebody's going to get this information, or they weren't confident enough to just say what they felt. Because I don't care what age. You need to be stable. You need to have it together. We not doing no broke niggas, period.
That's a good point. I mean,
hold on.
A lot of stuff affects stability. Go ahead.
But I think that the definition of liability is not universal. Any idea of I'm a 5'7", 128-pound dude, then if a chick don't know kung fu, then she's a liability because somebody got to protect us when we out. It's different in what somebody else brings to the table. And when you have a relationship, especially a long-term relationship, you realize that I want someone who fills in my gaps and completes me, or amplifies the things that I may be deficient in, because we don't need two people on this project. We need you managing these projects and I'm managing those projects. And then we just have a whole bunch of greatness because we've been able to spread our talents accordingly. But Shonda, you've been in a relationship for a long time. What's the difference in this relationship and a previous relationship in the idea of making sure that these attributes are assessed or that they're settled for?
What stands out for me is mostly stability.
Okay.
And that's just being, whether it's emotional, financial, whatever, it can cover so much.
Mm-hmm. The irony of it is when we look at, and obviously some of these words that we used in our assessment were basically culminations of things that became a theme, as opposed to the exact word that was used when the woman described what she was looking for. And so, and the reason why it had to become a theme is so that way we can bunch it up to score it this way. But I can tell you this, if I had have heard the term, I did right here. So look at 40 number 7, stability is in there specifically. So verbatim, she said stability, but that wasn't a word that came into the mind of these women. It's 50 number 2 says stability as well. But when you think about, and I know these are adjectives and I don't want to get into a semantics argument, but think about the experiment in this way. I approach you and I say, hey, what are the top 5 things that you look for in a good man? I'm gonna keep qualifying good, right? Top 5 things you look for in a good man. Your mind goes to 5 things, boom, 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 real quick. Now you start fighting against your mind based off your experiences, but your mind then told you what you really want or what you really think you want. And for whatever reason, maybe society has told you it's not polite to ask for that. Maybe because it seems like when you get through this, and as we go through this throughout this exercise, what you'll realize is the older the women got, the more some of these Christian themes and these stable things became resounding. But the younger the women were, it wasn't a lot of that. I'll give you a great example for people who are listening to this. In the 20s, the women, we had 3 women in their 20s that provided their responses. 2 of them had respectful high on the list. One of them was ranked at number 2. One of them was ranked at number 3. And then when you get into the 30s, 3 women had respectful on their list. Once we got into the 40s, nobody was talking about respect. It was one person that had it number 4 on her top 5. So as you get older, do you just not want a dude to be respectful? Or do you, like Kendra said, think this stuff is a given?
It was what Kendra said.
Here's the situation. So honesty can't be a given if everybody's saying they want it.
Hold on. So first of all, we can't say stability. We got to kind of throw that out.
Okay.
Because all 5 of them are what you think you need for a stable relationship.
Right.
So stability can't be a thing that you say to, and because like Shonda said, like some people need money, some people need hugs, some people need kids, some people need intelligence.
It's love language type shit. Yeah.
Right.
I kind of wanted to check what you said. I think because you made them pick one word. So when you say top 5 characteristics or things, that's why you have some of these words that are very close in meaning and being in that same top 5. If you were given and so when I read what you said, I went back and looked at my list to say, hey, can I make a word out of each one that I selected? Because I didn't do just a word. And it wasn't because I didn't follow the assignment. I didn't know what the assignment was.
Correct.
But once I knew what the assignment was and I went back to put a one word, I knew that that one word meant more. So for me, and Shonda couldn't say if stability meant the same for her, because what she was starting to say is the same thing I wrote when I wrote stability. I wrote emotional, I wrote spiritual, I wrote financial. So stability for me is inclusive of many things, not just the financial part.
Understood.
Agreed. Yeah. So God fearing is in there when you talk about spiritually.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I think that, so let's start with the what we'll do is talk about these women first and ask for your ability to help interpret, and then we'll talk about your own personal perspective on what you think is a good top 5 now, today. We don't have to, because some of you have filled this out already or gave your feedback, and I won't disclose that, but it could have changed because time changes things, right? A perspective changes things. But in the 20, and so I'm just going to read these real quick. In the 20, number 1 said artistic, trustworthy, funny, protection, and pets. Okay. We consider her to be an absolute Looney Tune. This is her 5 things that make up a good man. Artistic, trustworthy.
Order of importance?
Order of importance. Because, and the way that was discerned was what she said first was what came first to mind. And if you look at psychological studies, the things that come to your head first are the things that you find prioritization in. So that's how I did this. Now, she would argue me if she had a chance to represent herself and fight after she knows more, because you do better when you know better, right? And a lot of women that we've talked to, or a few women that we've talked to, after they provided their information and then they saw this list, they wanted to go back and do some take backsies or some do-overs. Oh, if I had thought about that, I would have said that too. Well, you said what you said. Be an adult, stick by what you said at that time when you was answering. Things may have changed, or now you know better because you see a better word. But the reality of it is, this is what men face when they meet you, is that they can only go by what you say, not by what you mean, not by what you thought at that time. They just going by what came out your mouth or what you was giving them in your impression. So 20, number 1, we had 3 women in the 20s. Like I said, number 1 said artistic, trustworthy, funny, protection, and pets. Number 2 and 3 had driven as their number 1. Number 1 was driven. Number 2 had driven, God-fearing, respectful, sensitive, and funny. Okay. Number 3 had driven, respectful, hardworking, God-fearing, and communication. I'll tell you now, the irony of these 2 women, and we don't know how close they were or where they were or anything, but all of them had God-fearing, driven, and respectful in their top 5. For a young woman, when y'all was in y'all 20s, was God-fearing, respectful, and driven as important to y'all?
No.
Oh, okay. You go there. Why not?
God-fearing, I wasn't in that space at that time. I talked to guys who were clearly not into the church and didn't have a spirituality, none of that. So that, and it wasn't, and even though I was raised in the church, it just wasn't a deciding factor for me as far as in my 20s. Driven was, because at that point I was very driven. So I needed someone who was very driven. Respectful was not, because I could be honest, I hadn't experienced any disrespect. So I thought it was, once again, for me, it was kind of that was common sense. So at that point, I can honestly say I hadn't experienced anything I would call as major disrespect. I mean, in hindsight, when I look back on it, okay, yeah, I guess it was. But at that time, I didn't feel disrespected by any male that I was dating at that time.
So let me ask you this before we move to the next person. If you could go back to you in your 20s, what do you think? And I know you're just guessing because it was a little while ago, a couple years ago.
Hey, I have questions after you too.
Cool, no problem. What would have been your top 5 in your 20s? And remember, I'm going to ask you this for each stage, but in your 20s, what would have been your top 5 if you could just really think back to that?
Back to that point, it definitely still would have been driven. It would have been family oriented.
Okay.
It would have been funny.
Okay.
I don't know why. driven, family
I
oriented,
do.
funny.
I do because that's cool.
Um, and I'm gonna be real because I'm
Yeah.
gonna keep it real, just because in my 20s I was probably still a little naive to stuff. I don't see nothing on here about swag, and I know
Okay.
this is important.
Okay. Ooh,
Okay.
ooh. Thank you for saying that. So,
Uh-huh.
what out of the A,
Wait a
B, and
second. That was only
B?
4. She only gave me 4. Give
Oh,
me
I only
5.
gave you four.
Okay. My
Yeah.
bad.
And handsome.
Okay.
So, who do you think has the best list? B, C, or D?
Okay, speaking from a 40-something-year-old woman,
Mhm.
I say number 3 has the
Okay.
best
She's the most
list.
mature. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
as a
let's just remind the
40-something.
folks. Let's remind the folks. 20 number 3 was driven, respectful, hardworking, God-fearing, and communication. So if you mentoring a 20-year-old woman, this is the one that you feel like is on her way to some sort of success.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Who want to go?
Yes.
Okay, Shonda, you go
Hold
second.
on.
What is?
I got a couple
you
questions
got
for
something too?
Kendra.
Okay, cool. My fault.
So you said God fearing wasn't on your list at that time. Is it
No.
now?
Yes.
Okay. Are you breaking up with this dude because he didn't have that in his 20s and you wanted him to gain it somewhere?
How old am I when you're asking me this question?
Your 20-year-old self versus today.
My 20-year-old self, if he was not God fearing,
Yeah.
I
She
would
didn't
not
care.
break up with him.
Yeah,
I
she didn't
didn't
care.
break up.
Okay.
I didn't break up with him.
Okay. But y'all got married and then now you're 40 something and he still don't have God fearing. Is that a deal breaker now?
Ooh. I would be surprised we even made it that long.
So this guy is supposed to evolve with your expectations?
Yes, we are to evolve with each other's expectations. Yes.
But you didn't even have these expectations.
Oh, I
in this
did,
one.
and I'm sure he had some too that I didn't meet. But yes, I'm expecting that. Even at the age of 40 something, I'm expecting that we evolve with our expectations. That's part
We-
of growing. That's part of what they call growing together.
So he has to have these 5 during that time, but
Yes.
there's a secret 5 that he needs to have in the future that he don't
Yep.
even know
That I
about.
won't even know about because you realize I didn't think even that I would have never thought at 20 that at 47 God fearing would be at the top of my list. So if I don't know him, I can't communicate him to him.
Wow. Okay. So I'm glad you said a couple things. So you said you didn't experience that, and I think you said it too, Chris. I have to say that like B came with PTSD. It's too many men that she met that didn't like her pets. So now it's on the top of her list.
Yes.
And I'm glad. Go ahead.
I don't know if a small sample size could be considered PTSD because I feel like a woman, unless she been ran through in her 20s, ain't really had enough experiences in love or in good men to. I think she probably had 2 boyfriends that kind of liked her, and she realized that when they gone, the cats are still there. And so therefore it's a package deal. Like you meet hoes that's got kids, we a package deal. She doing this with her fur babies. And I think that's what she was like. Because when she started with artistic, do you know how crazy artists are? Anybody that's ever dated a fucking rapper,
men
singer,
that broke up
dancer,
with her because she's artistic.
right?
But I think you're mistaken. You get PTSD as a kid. It can come from dads, uncles, anybody.
I'll allow it. but ain't no chance of her. Like of all that, we'll see when this is all said and done. What these women,
I'm sorry, but I know who that is, and I'm gonna check on her.
Yeah,
God!
she
Please
has the
check on her.
least. She has the
Please
least
check on her.
chance. She has the least chance of all of it. But I'll let the women tell me better. But I thought the one that Kendra chose was a nice for what the sample size is. It was the best is lesser of the 3 evils, right? But
yeah. Let me give Kendra one more.
Okay, go ahead.
One more props.
Okay.
You said looks, and nobody said looks.
Yeah.
In
And
your
I
20s,
seen this.
yeah.
I seen this damn pop the balloon show. Balloons be getting popped as soon as they walk
Yes.
out.
And the
So
reason I say looks is because you're 20s.
Right.
You're starting to think about who my baby daddy or
Yes.
husband is
Yes.
going to
Yes.
be,
Good
what
hair.
my kids are going to look like.
Yeah.
light eyes, good hair.
Amen. So I don't know why that was not on there, because at 20s, I know who I dated and I know exactly what I wanted my child to look like.
I
And
think
I
we
didn't
know
have
they
children
wasn't
with
being
him,
honest.
but I think about that, like, and I think about what was programmed in my head as I continue to
Here
date,
you go.
and what my family was saying to me when I started bringing home the ones that they were scared I was going to have kids with. So thankfully, I satisfied all of our needs and had a handsome
Scared.
son. But I do know I dated some questionable people that my family looked at and said, don't have kids with this one.
They scared the
Sir.
ugly.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, because they were not attractive.
Physically.
Her genes would have had to work a lot harder.
Yeah, we're physically attracted. So with that being said, Shonda, you with the list, and just for the sake of keeping up with things, I'm gonna go through 1, 2, and 3 again. 1 was artistic, trustworthy, funny, protection, and pets. 2 was driven, God-fearing, respectful, sensitive, and funny. And then 3 was driven, respectful, hardworking, God-fearing, and communication. Which one do you feel like had the best chance? You a girl mom, you got 3 girls. Which one of these young ladies, 1, 2, or 3, do you feel like has the best chance of finding love in the time frame in which she would hope to?
3.
3. Okay, so you on that too. Okay. And then my question to you is, are you surprised that the 20-year-olds giving these answers, and do you believe them?
I believe them because 1 and 2, I'm not gonna. I was gonna say because they're silly, but they're they're young and they hadn't had a lot of experience. If you would ask me to give an answer based off of myself when I was in my 20s, it wouldn't be as so much similar to 1, but it would have been funny for sure.
Give me your top 5 from 20. Yeah, we was gonna do that anyway. Give me your top 5.
20 mindset.
Yes, 20 mindset. 1 through 5 in order. Number 1 gotta be.
Because where I came from, it would have been
unashy elbows.
It would have been a
Unashy
hustler
elbows is
because I
number
came
1.
from the hood. It would have been a hustler because I came from the hood and I
Hustler.
did
Okay.
dope boys. So that were funny.
Okay.
Number 1, you said hustler. Funny?
Yeah. Number 1, driven. We're gonna call it driven. We're gonna call it driven.
They hustle all the time.
Let's just call it driven.
Yeah, we'll say driven.
Okay.
We'll call it driven. For the sake of this platform, let's just call it driven. Your second one was funny. What was your number 3?
I like guys that were outgoing. That was very athletic.
Okay.
Because I was, and I was tomboyish, so I like those kind of guys. And it was short. That was probably it. Because remember, I had my first child in my 20s.
Okay.
So when I was 20, actually turned 20.
Okay.
So I was out of school not that very long and had a kid.
But you hadn't given, at that time, though, to be honest to you and fair to your young you hadn't given up on what a good guy makeup was. So at that time, a good guy makeup was driven, funny, athletic, and family. What about family?
You wanted me to be honest.
You ain't give a damn.
My children dad, we dated in the 10th, 11th grade.
He wasn't a good guy. You knew he wasn't a good guy when you was 20. You knew that. If you go back and talk to 20-year-old you, should be like, we know he ain't shit, right? Yeah, but what else we gonna do? Like, no, I'm talking about a good guy.
I'm being honest. To be honest, in my 20s, it was not that bad. Okay. Because remember, I just got pregnant in my 20s. We were in school. So when you're in school, you don't live together. Everything is always lovey-dovey.
Okay.
Until you move in together and get to know somebody. Okay. So I'm giving you my honest truth. In my 20s, the list would have been very short. Now, me now?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Not yet.
Could I ask what the athletics was gonna do for you? You wanted someone who could run?
No, well,
fight for love in clubs.
I didn't want the nerdy guy. That was all into books and all of that. I wanted somebody, because our family, we did a lot of things together. So I played football, flag football with my cousins, and basketball. I played basketball in school. So
At
I
20?
wanted somebody that can get out when I was in school. So I
Okay.
wanted someone that could get out with me and do those things. I didn't want a guy that was like, I don't play sports. I don't watch sports. I don't do this. So the guys that I mostly dated, they either played basketball in school, football, or something like that.
I just want
What
you to
up,
know Ricky Baker was athletic.
man?
Who
What I
is
would just tell her
Ricky?
is that the producer has taught me over time two things can be true. And so, from an athletic book reader or nerdy kind of guy, you missed your opportunity. And I
I'm
hope
sure
he's
I
happy.
did.
Okay, cool.
I didn't look. I didn't say I made the right choices. I
Got
just
you.
did with my 20-year-old,
I can,
18, 19. Yes.
I can respect that. All right. So you got any questions for her?
That was my well, maybe let's expound on that a little bit. How long did he need this athleticism? Like, did he
Man,
need this in 40 or the 50s? Like,
No,
no,
this is me
he
from
need to be
school
athletic for a
to
little
my
while.
20s.
Huh?
I said that was my 20s. I just wanted a guy that worked out. I didn't want no skinny, no guy. He had to have muscles. He had to be strong and tough.
Okay, okay.
So
I think
yeah.
we'll see muscles again, but okay. No, nothing further, Your Honor.
all right, cool. All right. So Jazz, in your 20, or well, with these women that you see on the screen, and we just read them off, but which one do you?
3.
3. Okay. So everybody consensus in that regard. So let's just reiterate 3 is driven, respectful, hardworking, God-fearing, and communication. In that order, would you have rearranged the order, or what would you have liked in your 20s that's different from what 3 has here?
Definitely probably rearranged order. Her list is not exactly my list
Okay.
for 20.
What's your 20
but
list?
I'm the oddball in the mix because
okay.
hearing from is it Shonda?
Yeah.
Shonda and Kendra, their list changed. And Kendra's list said she said because of she didn't know to ask for what she didn't need at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When I look at what my list is and I think about who I was dating and what was going on and why I left who I dated and who I was dating, went to dating, my list is very much still the same, still almost 40 as it was at 20.
Oh, okay.
Now, my top 5,
yes,
a little bit different because, I mean, you had us list 5 and that's hard for women.
Right.
But in my top 5 is very much so still the same. But how I did mine is so broad. So it encompasses a lot of things. So when you mention athletic, handsome, this, it goes into the things that I said in my list. But I don't want to do that because you said you were trying to wait for our current list till later. But yeah, my list hasn't when I look at it, I can think back and say, yeah, that still checks for me.
Okay.
So is there danger in your list not evolving?
I don't believe so because mine is pretty solid of who I am. It's indicative of even as I've evolved and changed, because one of the things that's on the list, I can say that, mutual compatibility. So like you said earlier, Chris, you mentioned, where we fill in each other's weaknesses, strengths, different things, but you also, they say opposites attract, but we also know that opposites don't attract for long. So you got to have some stuff of the same basic foundation and core. So compatibility encompasses a lot of things. I'm intelligent, so of course I want somebody intelligent. I'm athletic. I'm hardworking, driven. All these plethora of adjectives that we can go down the list. So for someone that is mutually compatible, I get those things that I desire. So I don't feel like it not evolving greatly has been a flaw or downfall for me.
Okay, yeah, I do have a question though.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So, do you want the pastor to throw out the sickness and health vow? Because if they're in a wheelchair or something, they're not athletic at that point.
So I didn't mention athletic, and that's a different question. So we got to compare apples to apples. So sickness and health, once you take those vows, regardless of that, I married you, and because life happened, I don't throw in a towel on you because you're no longer athletic because you have a handicap. That's not what real love is. So, that's not indicative of what a man makes a good man in my book.
Okay, so once you get married, you can veer away from one of these top 5.
you don't want to veer away because that's what your desires are. But I mean, as Kendra said earlier, as you grow and you evolve, you change. You got different things you may want. And so you asked her. You said, "Hey, how can a person want what you don't know to ask or what you haven't asked for?" So you either grow together or grow apart, because you asked Shauna kind of the same situation. And I kind of was reading through the lines of when you mentioned whoever Ricky Baker is. But if you involve and grow together, great. If you don't, then you decide, do we have enough of the right stuff?
Ricky Baker is the dude who got shot in Boys in the Hood.
Yeah.
Oh Lord. Okay. That went over my head for a second, but I definitely know who that is.
We just had a young moment, and that's what we did here.
You know what? Don't revoke my black card, because I wasn't thinking. I thought it was some inside, and there was somebody really named Ricky Baker that she dated.
No, we don't know. We got to talk about that later. You acting like you didn't even go to the funeral.
Right.
I was raised very sheltered, and rated R movies was off the list for a while. So yeah, it went over my head. I can be honest.
Understood. So with this though, and so the one thing is, I am surprised at the respect that you guys are affording to 20 number 3 for sure, because this concept, as I stated earlier, of driven dies when we get into the 30s, which we'll do now. It dies. We had 11 respondents in the 30-year range, women that was in their 30s, ladies that were in their 30s, and only one had driven, and it was her number 4 on the list. And so I'm not going to drain this list reading all these to you, but what I'll say is the themes are very, very inconsistent. Honesty came across, loyalty came across very heavy as top 1 or 2 on many of the list, but you also had some that I'll point out. Handsome showed up. 30 number 1 had handsome as her number 4. 30 number 3 had handsome as her number 5. So handsome did rear its ugly head, ironically, in the 30s. But one of the things that didn't resonate very well in the 30s was, if you look at 33% of the 20s, one person had communication. 4 people of the 11 had communication in their 30s. Another thing that was in the 30s that stood out to me was no kids. So let's just, for the sake of understanding where we're going here, 30 number 8. I'm going to read the qualifications that 30 number 8 gave, and I want you ladies, in no particular order, to respond to what the hell she was thinking. And then I'll let the producer tell me which number he would like for us to expound on. But I definitely don't want to get out of here without 30 number 8 being, and I don't know the color of 30 number 8. We can make some inferences.
We do.
I do.
But okay, cool. All right, let me see it first. Damn, judgmental women.
I know the person.
Oh, damn. Okay, cool.
Oh,
all right,
wow.
cool. Oh, wow.
I know the type.
Okay, cool.
No, I know the person. I know her.
Okay. So 30 number 8, these are her top 5 qualifications in a good man. Number 1, rock climber. Number 2, gluten free. Number 3, no kids. Number 4, non-controlling. And number 5, he needs to be a traveler. So, help me unpack that. And what's her chances of finding a good man?
Oh, Jesus.
Do y'all want, okay, let me say this, because I know this person.
Okay.
And I know exactly I know the reason she picked each and every one of those.
Okay.
Do you want everybody, the other 2, to give their opinions, and then I'll tell y'all the real truth?
Let's do it like that. Jazz, you go first. What do you get inside her mind? Be psychologist, Jazz, and tell us what the hell is on her bird, and how is this going to turn out to be successful?
I'm gonna say this: there's not a lot of hope for the kid, but she didn't understand the assignment. Let's just start there.
Okay.
That's the clearest answer I can give, because if these are in order of importance of what you need to be a good person, good man, she could be dating Jason the Psycho Killer at this point. Like, I just like. I can't. I can't rationalize insanity, so I can't give you a better answer than that.
Okay, understood. Shonda, would you like to go?
For the assignment, she didn't understand the assignment. So
it's kind of hard not to understand. Can you give me top 5 things you think are
I'm
qualifying a
telling
good
you
man.
that by
And
reading
you
that
come out with
list,
rock
I
she
think
did
climber.
not understand the assignment. Like, those might have been things that may have been important to her. But if you said, what makes a person a good person? And then if you asked that just to herself, and she said, I'm a good person because I'm a rock climber. I'm a good person because I'm gluten free, because I have no kids. I'm not controlling. I love to travel. That makes you a good person.
These people
She
filling
didn't
out dating
understand the
apps.
assignment.
They filling
But
out dating apps like this. So,
Well, when I
so
saw it, I
when
just assumed
yeah,
she's one of those free spirited people.
like a hippie, like a modern hippie.
Yeah, because and hopefully she find exactly what she looking for.
so
I mean,
As
luckily we live in a
what's
society, they got apps for that now, but
so let me ask this
what's
though. Let me
crazy
ask
to
this.
me though,
Go ahead.
what's crazy to me is she wants someone non-controlling, but she's demanding that they be gluten-free. Their diet has to match hers, but she
That's
wants
just for a
somebody that's
matter of
not.
convenience. I think that's a matter of convenience. My question to you, Shada, as a mature woman, is you got a daughter that's in her 30s. How do you steer this? Do you respect her determination of what a good man is? And if not, how do you steer her in a direction to where this one person, this is 0.008% of the male population that would be available to her. So how do you help her find love when she's made this a criteria that can't be met theoretically?
I have no idea.
Okay, all right, I respect the
I'm just
honesty.
staring at it. And I'm just that conversation would not be
Sometimes you
nice.
can't do nothing with it. Right?
Yeah, you can't. You just like, well, baby. Like the old people say, well, baby, I'm just gonna pray for you and hope
that
you
part.
find what you look for.
Bless your
Because
heart. Yeah.
it's hard.
So you, Harriet Tubman, this one.
Hopefully,
Everybody can't
like
go.
hopefully, like Jazz said, she misunderstood the question. Hopefully,
That would be hard.
'cause
All right,
this
now
is
give us now
rough.
for the person who actually secured this response. I remember this now. Kendra, you secured this response on our behalf for the study's sake. So maybe you can color in
And
and
I
help us
appreciate you
fit
so
this
much.
into a real life scenario without, giving too much. But how did we even get to this person being in a functioning society?
Yeah, I lost sleep. I lost sleep over this. Please, details.
Can you rephrase the question? Because that's a whole lot.
So
Give
what
it
has happened
in
is it is my interpretation, and so maybe this is me just being too prejudiced or too biased. If a woman's in her 30s and she has an opinion on what a good man is, she has something going on in her life. She has a job, she has some type of education, she has people that care about her because she's actually being able to discern what a good man is and give feedback when asked. So all those things culminate in the fact that somebody asked her a legitimate, easy question. I'm not going to let y'all make it sound like this was confusing. Give me 5 characteristics that you think qualify a good man. And the first thing came out of her mouth, past her teeth, top and bottom, was rock climber. The second thing came out of her mouth, past her teeth, was gluten free. And then she went on to just keep saying stuff. And I don't know if I don't understand. I think I'm pretty articulate. I thought the question was straightforward. So help me understand the character that is this person that gave this Looney Tune ass answer.
And please let us know if it could be indoor rock climbing or does it have to be outdoor?
Yeah, it could be both. It could be both.
Does rock climbing counts as traveling because you're going up?
Yeah,
Now go ahead.
no, you're doing both. I will say this: emotionally, she was not stable.
Okay.
So her responses were clearly based off her triggers of what she had been through in her past life. So for her, Jazz, she did understand the assignment. For her, this is what makes a good man for her.
Okay.
As
So he could beat her senseless and this would still be okay?
Okay, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Did you put senseless on yours?
Yeah, because
I said he can beat her senseless and he's still a good man.
But this is the thing. None of us had beat senseless.
Yeah, I think non-abusive.
I'm
I think
just
table
throwing
stakes.
something out there.
No, he can't beat her senseless because that's why she had non-controlling on here.
Yeah.
So she did just like we did, where like she looked at what she had been through in her life and said, "This is what I know I need to be able to wake up every morning and be with this man." Rock climbing, she was dead ass serious because I asked her.
Okay.
This is her path. This is her life. She
So
was dead ass serious. Now, and I would go on to say she actually met somebody who had all of these things except the no kids. And I understood why she said the no kids, considering she had kids. And I'm like, why would you
Wait,
want
wait,
somebody?
wait. She has kids and
She
wait a
has
minute.
they can't have any?
What?
And
So
he
let
could
me.
not, and let me explain why she said, because at that point, me and her both were talking to males who had children. And I asked her, and I said, well, that doesn't make sense to me. One, she did not want to deal with a crazy baby mama.
Okay.
Two, she was like, our schedules. And I was like, wow. So he had his kids on one weekend. She had her kids on the opposite weekend. It made it hard for them to kind of date because they had their kids. So it would have been different maybe if they were able, because to the point, she was even like, hey, one of us has got to work with the other co-parent to figure out if they can switch their schedules so that
Yeah.
that way they could have a weekend together, and then the other weekend they both go their respective ways with their respective kids. I was like, wow, because she's like, look at you. You can't even see the guy you talking to because he constantly has his daughter. And that guy couldn't come to my house because I have a son. So we struggled and ultimately did not make it work because we were both single parents.
Other responsibilities,
But
correct.
we had other responsibilities. Correct.
Right.
So I will say this, I don't talk to her anymore, but I do know before
Thank God.
I talked to, we quit talking, she did meet a guy that had 4 out of those 5 qualities.
That's what's up. And once again, there's somebody
Hold
for
on,
everybody.
Chris, before you get
Go ahead.
started.
Go ahead.
So would it made a difference if she had chosen different words? So instead
No.
of saying rock climber,
Maybe
adventurous, or
athletic.
healthy lifestyle instead of gluten free, then maybe we wouldn't just looked at it the way we
Mm-hmm.
did.
I think one of the things that we
True.
have to come to terms with is you don't have to convert me or convert this panel or convert anybody in your family or whatever the case may be. The maturity comes when you know what, and this is what you hear about old women. Old women know what they want, and they ain't about all that bullshit, and they ain't about all that explaining. They know what they want, and they gonna call it like it is. She had an old soul in her 30s to realize that she knew what she wanted. I do have a question that I'm going to let Shonda go in her assessment, or let y'all kind of I want to get through the 30s first before I introduce this concept of baggage. But I do realize that that's a prevalent theme in her assessment of what she wanted, because she knew exactly what she didn't want from previous experiences. And what I'm hearing in y'all commentary thus far, I wrote down, it's a lot of reflective dynamics that added to the depiction of what you think is a good man going forward. And I want to help understand the math behind that. So did you have which one did you want to which one did you want to go to in this that we can read off? Or did you have anything else to say about 30 number 8?
Oh, I got plenty to say, but I won't waste y'all time. So it's, to me, like the no kids and the non-controlling. I don't think she has the things that she's asking from another person.
Agree. I totally agree. And I said that to her because you made a very good point. You say you want someone who's non-controlling, but she was adamant that they had to be gluten-free. So I asked her why. And she said, I'm not cooking 2 different things. I'm not cooking 2 different ways. My kids are used to this. So we have this blended family and his kids eat junk food. This is not going to work for us.
She was smart. She was
Yeah,
crazy than a
now
motherfucker,
I'm
but
No,
she
looking
was
no,
at it
smart.
she's insane.
different.
She's
I love her
insane.
rationality.
No,
I'm not mad
no, you
at
cook
her.
2 different meals for people you love. You do that.
She know what
Let
she
me,
wants.
let me ask a question before we go further. Have you ever been in a household, sir, where somebody didn't want to cook 2 different meals?
Oh, absolutely. But have I cooked? But have I cooked 2 or 3 different meals? Absolutely.
And you're still with that person?
No.
Yeah, that shit was exhausting. So what I'm gonna say is,
Don't tell my mama this one.
It's because we didn't compromise. But yeah, go ahead.
what I'm going to say is this, and I was trying to stay away from this, but I think it's important to the broader audience. When I was in my 30s, I had dated someone who had a kid, and because of that experience, as you stated, with the time and the schedules coordinating and then the other people involved and all this other stuff. Once I was out of that relationship, I told myself, I have enough other things going on that I don't want that in the future. I don't want to date somebody with children. And so therefore, that was a disqualifier for me because I had done it twice. It hadn't worked out. And I don't think it was the kid's fault for sure. But I thought there would be more time for this relationship to flourish and us to nurture each other if she didn't have that responsibility. I want to call it distraction, but that responsibility. So it was something that I had a kid. So in the idea of I can't always give, it can always be one for one. It has to be, okay, she has to have something that I want or something that I don't want. And in turn, I have to have something that she doesn't want. You know what I mean? So she might have said, you know what? I don't have any kids, but I'm not going to date anybody to smoke weed or have a criminal record. Or I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? That type of stuff. So he might have a kid. Or one of the things she did say, in fact, when I started dating a woman that didn't have no kids was, I'm not going to date anybody who doesn't have an active participatory relationship with their children. Mm-hmm. Like if you're not actively involved in your kids, you can't say nothing to me. So it wasn't, it wasn't just no kids and no kids. It was, okay, I don't care about a dude that's got kids because that's how we grew up. That's what I'm used to. Yeah. But I'll be damned if I'm going to have a deadbeat.
Right.
And that was her qualifier to which I, met the criteria. So in that regard, I do understand it can't be, I don't want no kids because I don't have no kids. Sometimes it's, I've done that and I see the perils of that or the difficulty I'm adding to it. It's kind of like being in an interracial relationship. It's a lot to go in. It's a lot more than just being with a chick. It's a lot of hurdles and hoops and all these other things you have to qualify and contemplate in your mind. And it only adds stress to the relationship. Now you don't know if you with her to prove a point or if you with her because you love her ass. Like, and you can get caught up in that, trying to prove something in those regards. So that's what I want to say about that as a criteria. Ironically, she was cuckoo crazy, 30 number 8 before I started talking to you ladies. But now that we've unpacked it, I see where she was trying to go. I think she was just a little dogmatic and overly prescriptive with exactly what had to happen. And that's why her journey would be a little more difficult to find those things. But if she was able to compromise one off the list, I think that also she at least knew what she wanted. And that's what I've always been told by women is an old woman know what the hell she wants.
So Kendra, do you know if she was willing to have a kid?
Yes, I was just about to add that. They were talking and she was willing to have they were willing to have a child together.
Not as crazy. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's just when she made the comment about the scheduling and then she put it back on me, I was like, well, damn, she got a point. Because I was at the point where I'm like, well, I only want to date men who have children and have had children. But then she was right. I struggled with the single father who had, problems getting his schedule together the same way I had problems, not having a lot of free time. So it just wasn't working. So she actually helped me reevaluate. Like Chris said, it wasn't so much that they had kids, but what age range were their kids now? And how active were they with their kids and what was that? So I had to really kind of reevaluate how I dealt with guys I met who had children.
I want to say something. I think now that we've unpacked, like you said, it gives some more context to her. I will say this because I can always go back on something I said and be like, you know what? Okay, with further assessment. I still feel like she didn't understand the assignment in that what makes a good man, but I think she gave authentically what made a good man for her. Right. And so I can, especially after hearing the fill in the blanks portion from Kendra, that makes sense. But it's still like, I agree also with Shauna when she was like, if she had just said adventurous or she had said this, because she was very, very specific. And that's what still makes me say that rigidness too can count against her if she hasn't settled down and found this fairy tale unicorn guy. But I wish her the best.
But can I play devil's advocate on that?
Yes,
Isn't
please.
that the whole thing that we're talking about? That men don't because we're so vague about our description, that they they can't be what we need them to be. So the fact that she was that rigid, a guy who's not a rock climber, and as a matter of fact, I know a guy that was trying to date her, he did not rock climb. and he was just like, I don't get it. She was so
Yeah.
definitive. She was not going to settle. Now,
So-
yeah, that makes her journey harder.
But I get it.
But the destination is more
lets a
satisfactory.
man. It's one thing for a man to be adventurous. He could be
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'll go zip line out and jump out of planes.
But
But
yeah.
if he ain't a rock climber, she wasn't feeling him.
I
So
got you.
at least a dude knows, like, he knows what he's getting with her. Crazy, not whatever.
Yeah.
So
I agree
Oh,
with
it's
you.
definitely
with
crazy.
me, he gonna be
What
like,
kinda crazy?
well,
But
you
and
said
so that's what I'm
adventurous,
saying.
Kendra.
That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna give credit where credit is due on that. Then that because that gives some credence to what we were talking about earlier of how do y'all know as men, and I respect and applaud her for that. So. But it's like I guess it's different ways in different people's journey, because I feel like same for myself. I am very much so for the things that I said. If you had to give me one word, yes, the more words are going to be very vague and ambiguous, because the more words I can't give a good answer to a person from one words. So I think that's why I was going back to the initial assignment of when you gave these women this list. That's why you had women that came back and double back and want to do backsies, because you asked them one word. Because my lists weren't one words, but I understand.
So let me clarify. Let me clarify. It wasn't that it was so much as one word. It was the top 5 qualities. And some women, and I could pull this up. I think you might still have some, bro, that you screenshot me or whatever. But the moral of the story is, even though I gave them the assignment to keep it brief, they didn't keep it brief. I had this.
Okay.
The reason why it was condensed into these particular themes was for the sake of this spreadsheet and spitting out some type of algorithm. But a lot of women wrote books, and it was it was more than what I needed for the assignment, because to me, and maybe I'm just too articulate in the fact that when you're of a certain age, and I'm in my 40s at this time when we do this, and I kind of knew what I had been looking for based off of trial and error and all these other things that most of us have been exposed to. I realized these are the things I need more than anything else. Boom, 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 boom. And so it wasn't a whole bunch of explaining behind it. It was simply this, simply that, simply this. Now that evolves, as we all spoke about, as you get older. But the concept of now I'm at not 20s, I give a lot of latitude to, because you in your 20s, who gives a fuck? 30s, now you starting to settle in and really make determinations of if it is or is it ain't at this point in time. And so I was a little more, had a little more eyebrow raised up on the 30s. And then when I got to the 40s, you really at a point, and I'm going to say this and you to piss off the Pope, you at a point where your pickiness needs to really be reflective on these top 5s. And I didn't see a lot of adjustments in picky that translated from 30 to 40 that I thought I would. So it stunned me when I got to the 40s and they still asking for all these high profile type things. They're like, you in your 40s. What is we talking about? So, but that's the case. So what did you have, bro, which one did you want to go to while we're still in 30 before we move on?
Okay, so at this point, it seems like they think that the guy should be driven in his 20s and he should be there in his 30s. So maybe that's why it's not there.
I think that a lot of that is I shouldn't. Correct. He should have arrived with some destination in mind, or because I think you grind him because you're trying to figure yourself out in your 20s. I'm just thinking like this. But then by the time you get to your 30s, you have somewhat of a North Star. Now you might not be there and you might be en route, but at least you telling me, I see this home, I see this land, I see this business, I see this education dynamic. Because by the time you're in your 30s, you either done went to if you haven't got your bachelor's already, or if you haven't gotten this and that, you really don't have a priority on that. Like your priorities start to come clear by the time you in your 30s as to what am I going to do and who am I going to do it with.
Okay, I want to start with Shonda though. So which one of the 30s you think is the top one?
Okay, cool. I like that.
And Kendra and Jazz be thinking about it. Because that's the one I want to dive into.
Okay.
Because we're trying to figure out which one is closest to what we want to advise people on.
Right.
I'm looking through them, and it's always one that's off in there that you be like,
Right, I agree.
Now, keep in mind, you a girl mama, your girl's gonna be 30 one day. Which one of these young ladies at least got close to what you would want your young lady to have in her mindset when she's in her 30s?
Who would you pick as her mentor, just based off of these?
Yeah.
Ooh, this hard.
Probably gonna be number 11.
Okay, so 30, number 11 for the audience is number 1, God fearing. That was her first quality in a good man. Number 2, honest. Number 3, communication. Number 4, hardworking.
Mm-hmm.
And number 5, empathic.
Somebody said, on that hard working.
Yeah, man. Good
They
Lord.
didn't want no lazy.
Learn to crawl, huh? Touch
Yes,
the crawl.
sir.
But so
Sound like
empathic.
no PS5.
Right. So okay, cool. Now let me ask you this, Shonda, because he asked you, what was the things that stood out in that made you choose number 11 over the other 10 candidates?
Number 10 next to it is not bad. I think it's just the wording of some of them can mean the same, so
I agree.
I agree too.
Because women want it all. Y'all understand what y'all saying? Okay, but go back to what was the other? What was the thing that number 11 that stood out? If you did, because obviously, if based on this, you could say all of them, all 50 answers, right? But what was it? It was the God fearing.
Yep, the God fearing, and yeah.
And so what did we establish as a baseline earlier was for a 40-year-old woman, when you look back in your 20s, God fearing was not one of your priorities. Obviously, as you've gotten older and got closer to days being behind you as opposed to ahead of you, God fearing becomes important. For her to be in her 30s and the only one in her 30s to have God fearing as her first thing. Now, she wasn't one of the only ones to have honest as one of her tops. She wasn't one of the ones that have communication in her top 3 or 4. But she had God fearing up there, and that stood out to you. Is that something that you actively, and I know I'm getting personal, getting vulnerable, is that something that you actively teach to your girls now in their 20s?
Yes.
Okay. How's that lesson going?
That's good.
It ain't because of their 20s.
Okay.
They not listening.
But you plant.
Why explain the game? Niggas ain't
I think planting that seed is important.
Yeah. It's important. But yeah, they in their 20s, and
Okay, so what does God fearing mean to you?
Oh.
Anybody?
That's deep. I want my kids to, and for me, I need somebody that can pray with me, pray for me. Yes. We pray for each other. Okay. We see the same, like me and my husband, we pray for each other. He prays for me. I don't know because I'm going through all these changes.
I
but
know.
yeah,
because I know
and
you
I
for
love
years.
that about him.
I'm sorry, I thought I was on mute.
So that means a lot to me, and I want them to understand if they have, because I call my kids, I send them prayers and things like that, but I also want them to know it's important when you got somebody with you in a relationship that can pray for you, that can see, you going through something and y'all can pray together. So, but right now, like, they in their 20s and it's coming from mama, it's coming from dad, but they don't see the importance of having somebody, that you're in a relationship that you can do that together and the benefits from it. So,
okay. Any other expounding on God fearing?
I think for me, it's the fact that you understand that there is something bigger than me and you in this relationship. So I need to know that you're consulting with a higher power on the best decisions for us in this relationship, especially if you're expecting me to be submissive.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay. Anything, Jess?
Yes, for sure. So to piggyback off of that, I watched a series by Miles Monroe, and he gets into great detail of what it is to be a woman, a wife, a husband, a man. And going into the God-fearing portion, it's not just simply the praying and praying for, it's a lifestyle thing. As Kendra mentioned, as well as Shonda mentioned, being governed by something other than yourself, seeking guidance from others. And so mentioning the whole Miles Monroe, he gives a breakdown of what a godly man should have in place. And when you're God-fearing from my definition of what God fearing should be, those things fall into place. You should be someone that protects. You should be someone that's stable. You should be someone that's in God's presence. And so when those things are in place, then a lot of those other things that I'm using air quotes, have on the list as characteristics and traits are automatically given because that is their baseline.
So would y'all think differently of a guy who says, I'm God realized, not God fearing?
Can you repeat?
It depends on what that definition is to them. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What was the question?
God fearing is someone who's scared
Scared of God. Yes, I agree. Yeah. So let me say this, just for the audience and for everybody on the call in this regard. When I see God fearing, what I interpret it as and how I apply it for me is someone who's humble. And like you said, there's a bigger power that's bigger than you, is bigger than us. And so that's a line of humility. It also implies a level of tradition or programming. Now, we can have another pod about that at another time, but they've at least subscribed to a family tradition or some type of family dynamic or a team perspective, right? Even if their family didn't go to church, they end up going to church, or they started reading something that's one of the biggest groups or subsets of people on planet Earth. And so they believe in something that they've been able to create a community to align themselves with, which there's strength in numbers. And so that part is important. But also, I think the cheap part about it is the Bible, as contradictory as it is a baseline that creates a common language that we can all understand, whether it be the commandments, which we'll do a pod on that, ratifying or amending the commandments to fit now. But the idea of it is you at least have something that you abide by psychologically, emotionally, that you can turn to as an anchor. And therefore, we both can then have that as a baseline when things go good or bad. We can praise him and we can beg him for forgiveness and questions as we move forward. So the God-fearing part is really, are we connected on the same wavelength? Because if you look at relationships of people who are in different religious backgrounds and beliefs, those are very different. Once again, it's like interracial or anything else, or same sex or whatever. Sometimes you allow yourself to align with a relationship that has so many more qualifications and outside noise and all this other distractions that it makes the love very hard. I know people feel like love can conquer everything, but don't make it hard to love them. Like that makes it more difficult. So when I think of God fearing, you want to know, hey, are you familiar with the holy book? You familiar with the mercy and the grace? Are you familiar? And then somebody said it earlier, and I think it might have been Shonda, where I can expose you and grow you into this. So maybe in my 20s, I wasn't on my God game, but I always knew I was going to get there, God willing, pun intended. And so by the time we got to our 30s and 40s, we was going to be sitting in somebody's church. We was going to get married in somebody's church. We was going to dabble in some church stuff. And then we kind of come into that awakening together, because you young, you smoking, drinking, and chilling with this chick, but you got to realize y'all gonna have to retire that jersey at some point. We can't be 44 smoking, drinking, and chilling still, because that's just irresponsible and not part of hopefully God's plan. And so when it comes to a guy, thinking that when a woman says God fearing to a guy, what a guy thinks is not that I go to church every day, or I'm the deacon, or that I'm, master of all the tithes, but that I understand where I am in this world and how God has affected my life, and how I would turn to God, to help guide my life, because the Bible gives you so many lessons that should create stability if you abide by them. Now, I'm saying that, and I'm going to end with this. We all know nobody abides by the Bible. They pick and choose whatever the hell they want to do, and they make it up as they go along, because it's been there forever, their whole life. The Bible been the same my whole life. Now, they got all these different versions, but if you go to King James, it's been the exact same my whole life. So either I got the lessons or I didn't. You know what I mean? And you hope that grandma and them praying, and all the prayer warriors, like Shonda was saying, they hoping that it just hits you when it need to, right? But that's the God-fearing aspect from a male perspective. But I appreciate y'all, aspect of it as well, because that honestly is one of the most confusing things that men come across, is the religious dynamic, because religion comes with social constraints, roles and responsibilities, and all. It's certain religions where your woman can't work and you can have more than one wife and all this other stuff. So it just becomes very convoluted when you put that in there. So she made that a top priority. She has to make sure that her God and his God is the same God, because Baptist, Methodist, Episcopalian, Episcopalian, those type of things have different nuances to where it could be even different what you wear to church, the kojics and all this other stuff, right? So it's not as simple as that. But I like the fact that once again, she was willing to ask for what she wanted.
Yep. So, Jazz, would you say that's your top one as well?
It's not actually.
Okay.
But it kind of goes to the question you asked about God fearing, God realizing, or what did you say? Say what you said again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. If a guy said he
Okay.
was not God fearing, he's God realized,
So
would that turn you off?
not,
Disqualify you?
not necessarily. And the reason I say that is because it goes back to my top one is stable, but my stability breaks down. And when you get to that spiritual part, then it goes to like we've all said, being governed by a higher power. Do you pray? What's your baseline? And most people that follow some type of religion of some sort have a decent moral compass that they adhere to overall. I mean, obviously there's people that break that, but that gives you a good starting point. So I think that, like you said, with the words of the God fearing, I don't necessarily say that because I don't 100% agree with what it means either. Because just like Chris said, there's a lot of contradictory things. And even though I grew up and was raised in that, that is one of the ones on my list where I feel like I changed throughout the years of the God fearing part to just being spiritually stable and having a baseline of God.
Okay.
So which one would you pick then if you had the number 1 through 11? Obviously 11 is not yours.
I'm in agreement still. I'm still in agreement with 11 because a lot of the other words are the same. Like 10 is a good list. And the only reason why 10 stood out to, and I'm just going to keep it a buck, because it had money. But for 11, if you got hard working, we're going to assume that finances come with the hard working portion.
Right. Yeah, it's not free.
So that's why I think, that would be the best list. The best option would be 11.
So what? I forgot what's the ministry you listen to?
I listen to several, but Miles Monroe, I've listened to pretty much almost everything by him.
Okay,
And
so
he goes in a lot of detail.
If a guy came and said he didn't like Miles Monroe, but he had all of the other qualities,
you have to give credence to anything you say. If you come to me and say, I don't like okra, why? So if you don't like Miles Monroe, that's fine. We can have a difference of opinion, and doesn't mean that we can't walk through life the same, but it has to be an understanding of what's the reason behind it. Because typically, if it was something that triggered you or offended you, because if you know of him and if you are a person that is spiritually, whatever you want to adjective it as, God-fearing, spiritually grounded, whatever, there's not a lot of pushback you can get from Miles Monroe. He's not one of these flaky, say foolish. I mean, he's just a real person. He has a real perspective from a spiritual standpoint that it's not a lot of things that you can give pushback to. So if you say you don't, I need to know why. And so that probably would be a deal breaker, because it would probably be a dumb answer if you just was anti.
So at that point, would you say that you're led by Miles Monroe versus this guy?
No.
Okay.
No. No.
Okay.
Let me just for the sake of the audience, number 11's qualifiers 1 through 5 was God-fearing, honest, communication, work ethic, and empathic. So now that, and then I'm going to tell you number 10, because she's come up twice. Hers were honest, loyal, patient, kind, and money. Honest, loyal, patient, kind, and money. Those were hers. She's honorable mention for both the last two ladies. Did Kendra go already with your choice, Kendra?
No, but
nope. She needs to.
I'm with the group. I'm going to say 11.
Damn, 11 is the unanimous.
Because I feel like patient. I'm going to tell you, number 10, patient and kind falls in that empathetic piece.
Okay.
To me.
Right. And then loyalty and honesty.
Honesty is about the same. And then money and hardworking, like Jazz says, if you're hardworking, what's the chances you're going to be broke? So I think 11, just the wording was more concise. So that's why I picked 11.
Okay. Hey, I think we can move to 40.
Well, hold on. For the sake of this, though, Jazz gets to go first. Is what your 30s is your top 5, and then the other ladies, because that's current for her, then the other ladies could say in their 30s what their top 5 would have been.
Okay.
So give them what my top 5 is
top
right
5,
now?
Yes. Current, yeah.
Oh, okay.
This your group. These your niggas. These are your niggas right here.
You stupid. All right. So as we've resonated, stable. But
Okay.
stable breaks down for me financial, emotional, and spiritual.
Okay.
Second one would be empathic.
Okay.
Third, you know what? I don't really think these are in order. I think I just jotted them down because
That's
as
cool.
I'm saying them. Okay.
That's all right.
Third, high integrity.
Okay.
Fourth, mutually compatible and attraction. So that encompasses all them random things y'all were talking about earlier. That gives the whole gambit.
Okay.
And then fifth, effective communicator.
Okay. Okay, cool.
So that's my list.
Cool. All right, ladies, when y'all was in your 30s, Kendra, you go first. What would be your top 5 at that time?
Oh, just any top 5?
No, for 30s, for when you was in your 30s.
Okay.
Unless you want to act like you in your 30s on this call all of a
No,
sudden.
absolutely not.
Okay, cool.
I don't need
All
to
right.
go back to that. So for in my 30s, my top 5 would have been hardworking.
Okay. Number 1?
Absolutely. I know where I was working at, so I just didn't like lazy dudes.
All about it.
Ooh, we work on days that it rain and snow.
I did. I'm trying to think what else. Honesty would have been in my 30s by then.
Okay. Okay.
You had been lied to a lot by then?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Usher,
Move on. I know her. Move on.
We were talking about PTSD. I'm sorry.
At that point, Usher's confession was definitely about me.
And high five said trust and honesty.
So I said, what did I say? Oh, hardworking, communication.
Yep.
I don't see it on here, but for me, in my 30s, I still wanted fun.
Okay.
Entertainment.
And also, by the time I hit 30s too, although that's kind of weird because I was getting ready to have a baby, handsome. He had to be attractive.
Okay, got you.
And I'm trying to think what made me marry the person I was with.
No. Go with your real feelings, not what was before.
These were my real feelings. At this point in time, he was in this category.
Okay.
And then I will say, Jazz said effective communication.
Okay.
I'm going to say effective communication.
You already said communication. I got it on the screen. Hardworking, communication, fun, and handsome. What's number 5?
So y'all had to define fun as the same?
No, wait a minute. What? I said communication already?
Yes, ma'am. I wrote it out already because I know you.
It was supposed to be honest.
Remember
because I said by that point, Confessions was my song. Okay.
Okay, got you.
Honest, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool.
Trust and honesty. She did say that. That's the way to unconditional love.
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool.
Unconditional. Right. Oh, don't let me sing.
Okay, don't, Shonda. I know these
I'd
ladies.
like to hear a note.
I won't. Shonda, please. When you was in your 30s.
So it would have, God fearing would have been one.
Okay.
The first, and then it would have been hard work.
Violence. Yeah, a lot of violence.
Yeah, I did. And it would the second would have been hard working.
Okay.
Family would have been number 3. You know, somebody that was family oriented, and I guess because those top 3 right there was good enough for me.
You a simple woman.
And that look, that was in my late 20s, not even in my 30s. I had enough in my 20s. Those 3 right there. But yeah, probably honesty.
Okay.
I could add some for her. Yeah, honesty.
Communication.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was
I know
about
you
to
was
say
gonna
that.
say communication.
I wasn't gonna say communication. I was gonna say stable phone connection. You didn't want them hanging up.
Right.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
So I think that, and this is good. Communication is becoming a resonating theme, and I appreciate that. Obviously, all 3 of you had that, and then ironically, you had hardworking, 2 of you there, but and honesty was 2. But then it kind of
honesty was 3 because my high integrity is still honesty.
Okay, cool.
Who has high integrity ain't honest?
I think that here's the situation. And I don't want to get into a thesaurus.
Your feelings.
Yeah, I want to get into a thesaurus type of situation, but sometimes honesty can be overly candid, and integrity allows for you to spare feelings and be a little more aloof in your presentation.
poppycock.
Oh, okay. Wow. You ain't
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
disagree.
All right, all right.
ain't no, okay, cool. Ain't nobody never said nothing to offend you. Trust me
No,
on this.
I mean,
There are women where men have to tread lightly with how does this make me look? Because
right,
you
but I'm
can't
not
tell
that
me
chick.
you can't tell me being gentle with you is making me sacrifice my integrity. But I'm not being honest with you, babe. I'm not. You got cankles,
Okay.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you got
I'm doing,
you got your elbows is
yeah,
ashy, and but that I'm not
I'm
gonna let you
doing what's
charge me
best for
on the
you.
You know what?
exactly.
I'm doing what
So,
I really feel is best for you, but I can't even tell you because you're gonna cry.
Right.
That's
okay.
just what he's
So
saying.
then that goes into knowing. I go with the clear definition of a word, integrity, and I get where y'all going with this from a male's perspective.
Okay.
But integrity for me is cut and dry. A person that of integrity. I'm about to go to Webster in a second,
Yes,
but
please
it's
do.
a person
I'm
that's
pretty good at this
honest.
part. No,
Yeah,
no,
I
no,
know,
no,
me
no.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Me
Integrity.
too.
So
He was short, but he was right.
right. Yeah, I think that there's a distinction, a clear line between candor, integrity, honesty. All these words are going to come up as synonyms, but when you talk about the practice of them, they don't present the same in practice because you have to have.
Can I give you a definition of
Give
integrity?
it to me. Give it to me.
The quality of being honest and having strong moral principles that refuse to change. That's the clear-cut definition of integrity.
And what's
Yeah,
the definition of honesty?
when you put the and on it,
Yes.
go ahead, go ahead.
Look,
Let's
I
get
can
that
define this. This is Cambridge Dictionary I'm reading from.
Okay, got you.
I didn't define this, but I get where y'all going with it. It could be some gray areas to it. That's what I said. Know the person, know your audience.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, and that's why I said I still, because I had in parentheses honesty behind high integrity, but I need more encompassing just honest. Because just like you said, I'm the type of woman where if I look fat in it, say I look fat in it. But it's being tactful in how you deliver that message. That'd be the problem. A lot of you Negroes lack tact.
Ask for extra.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
extra.
yeah. Then we go to the what's the controlling? You want to control my integrity.
No, I don't want to control your integrity because if that's how you say it and you feel it, then I gotta suck it up, put my big girl panties on, and deal with it because that's what I
You gonna
asked
pop
for.
my balloon if I don't know how to tell you right.
Right.
I'm not that chick. I'm really not.
I'm not familiar.
I'm not. It's a YouTube thing, and it's when I tell you these people's most of them are delusional or convoluted.
As long as they have integrity, right? So as we move into the 40s, and I appreciate y'all sticking with us. As we move into the 40s, I will ask the ladies in this instance, is there any that you would like to speak on that you pull out of the because it was 16 responses, because obviously that was our age group. So these is our people. So we have more responses here than anywhere else. And so as opposed to draining all these, is there any that stick out as either highlights or what the hell was she thinking that y'all would like to speak through?
Number 10, what is discipline?
Okay, cool. So number 10 for the audience, her number one quality she needs in a good man is disciplined.
I like that one though.
Her next
Disciplined in what?
Like he has discipline. He don't spend a lot. He don't overspend. He's not irrational. I took it as him not being irrational. Him being very disciplined and very timely and very punctual and very pays his bill on time.
He ain't with all the hoes.
All of that. Yeah, yeah.
He goes to all areas. I like that word.
That kind of goes with Jazz's stable. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Very much so.
That's how she put it, and that's why I highlighted it. That's why I highlighted it, because it was interesting. But her number 10 was disciplined, kind, selfless, driven, and God-fearing. That was 40 number 10. So besides the discipline, Kendra, did you have anything else that 40 number 10 attracted you or made you want to speak on that?
No, I just didn't know what discipline meant.
Okay, cool.
I mean, like, well, I know what discipline means, but I was just like, disciplined in what?
Maybe I should have put it as, maybe if I had to use two words, self-discipline. But I think that when you start asking, that
probably would have helped me.
But when you start asking for a 40-year-old man as a prerequisite to show self-discipline, I'll say this to the audience as well. I had conversations with you and Jazz prior to this, and this was on some other stuff, and I'm not gonna bring that all into it. But something that was said during that time softened the blow when I got the responses back here, when I seen mature. In the 30s and in the 20s, nobody said one of their top 5 qualities was mature. All of a sudden, when I got to the 40s, mature came up 3 times. And I thought, I've heard this before. And I remember we were having a conversation, Kendra, where you were talking about a guy that was immature. And I was thinking, how? How are you a 40-year-old dude that's immature?
Dude,
So
I've dated 50 dudes in 50s that are immature. Maturity don't come with an age stamp, sir.
I don't understand that.
Okay,
at all.
I think it's the wording of it, because you think about it, and because not put everybody business that I talk to in there, but I'm in an age range where myself and others are experiencing males who are approaching us in their 20s and in their 50s. So I will say this. My conversation with those males who are in their 20s, the things that they say and do, I contribute it as is age appropriate because they're at that age. So when that 28-year-old is saying certain things to me, it's like, oh, well, he's age appropriate. What I do not tolerate is when the 51-year-old is saying the same thing that the 28-year-old is saying to me. Now you're just immature. Like, what happened? So I give more.
What didn't happen?
Or yeah, what didn't happen? So how are you 51 and you're using the same language and talking the same way as the 28-year-old? I give more grace to that 28-year-old because he's 28. I expect that. I do not expect you to be 51 talking that way to me.
Okay.
Is there any way possible you can give us an example?
No
Yes,
way. Before I don't want to digress.
I know you don't.
That's his jam, is to get us off.
I want to know what a 50-year-old said that a 20-year-old.
You can ask me after the podcast.
We can come back to it at the end as a bonus. We can come back to it at the end.
Is he saying he got shot?
For your choice, you don't need to make stuff up, sir. She's going to give you the foolishness. You don't have to create it on your own. So you said 40 number 10 with the disciplined kind, selfless, driven, and God-fearing. But you only said that because you didn't understand the self-discipline aspect of her answer, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Is there another one that you would have subscribed to if you had, that you do understand kind of the gist of what she was coming from?
Really, all of them.
All of them? Okay, cool. All right. Shonda, for you,
exactly what all of them are saying.
For you, which one stands out of the 16 women that answered in their 40s?
10.
10.
I think we're all gonna say 10. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. So then my question to you then with this woman, is this, so I'm gonna ask this because I think it's the time to ask this. A lot of this seems to come from carrying the sins of the previous dude onto the next dude. And so you done met a couple dudes that was gamblers or whores or whatever the case may be that didn't show self-discipline. And so now that's one of your top things you need, not realizing many men don't have this affliction. You just happen to run up. Think about what you said, Shonda. You had a dude when he was a kid and you was a kid. And then you got to a point in your life where I'll never have another dude like this. You only had one dude? What is you talking about? You charging the rest of the dudes with the crimes of this boy that you happen to transition into manhood with and was like, I'll be damned if I ever have another one like this. And now the fortunate thing with your story is your next one was a home run. Like you struck out and then hit a damn home run and now you're on the all-star team. But for a woman who struck out with your kid's father and his mentality and his perspective on life, does she have to be so all or nothing with the next dude, like to have an opposite type dude? Because I think that it seems like in your depiction of him and your next guy, you was going exactly in the opposite direction. Are there any commonalities with these brothers?
I'm out here walking. I'm sorry.
Cool.
And I was on mute.
Sorry.
When you say that I after that one relationship, it was just one relationship, and then I put all that on the next one, it kind of make me feel a little bit like old girl with the rock climbing. It's like, you know, exactly. Because at first, you know, seeing her list, I'm like, she got to be crazy. But once it was broken down, I was that way. It was like, no, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to put up with that. This person got to be like this and that. And I stuck to it. And like
how hard was it? Let me ask you this.
Run.
How hard was it though? In all honesty, because I think it sounds simple in theory, and a lot of women say, I got standards, and I'm going to stick by my standards. But and you ladies, Kendra and Jazz, y'all can speak to it. As soon as she finishes, you
Well,
because y'all I was going to say, okay, cool, Jazz.
Yeah,
I
it was,
got you, baby girl.
it really, it
you
wasn't
understand somebody
hard.
saying, I ain't sticking to somebody who don't climb rocks no more.
It wasn't hard for me to notice the losers that was coming my way. What was hard was I had to change who I was to attract that type of person.
Amen.
Good business.
That was the hard part.
Amen.
I couldn't request all of that, what I wanted from somebody. And then I was still that person that I was when I was with the person that was trash. So I had
That
to
is a
change
true
some things,
statement.
to attract what I wanted. So
Okay. I can dig that.
Like what though? Like what did you have to change? Or is that too personal?
are you trying to get back to this hanging over that
This nigga.
I know where you're going.
Right.
We fought. So in that relationship, we fought a lot. It was physical, it was mental abuse. My mouth, the mouth that I had, arguing, wanting to argue all the time, and I had to change all of that.
Yep.
Okay, you improved your
I
communication.
had to learn how.
Gotcha.
Look, I had to learn how to communicate.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had to learn a better way of communicating. So
Yeah.
I had to work on myself.
Yep.
Okay. So Jazz, you can go in because you obviously felt that when she said that. So what is your perspective on what she was saying?
Give me a more specific question because my mind went a lot of places.
No problem. So when she said that, she created standards and then she had to stay by those standards,
Okay.
but she also won the dude lottery,
Right.
and happened to run into the dude that happened to fit those standards, that happened to trust me on this, if y'all listen to other episodes, especially season 1 finale, be patient as hell with her crazy ass. Okay. He had to be paid the patience of Job, they say, in order for it to get to this point 15 years later. And now they, and she still have her moments and that, and he had to be cool. And he's a woosah kind of guy. I know him. But in the idea of now that we giving old girl with no kids, non-controlling traveler, now we giving her more grace. What is it about a woman creating standards and being able to stick by those standards? Because I often say your relationship is not a community project. But what I realize by a lot of women is they want something that they can tell their sisters and aunties and cousins and them and get they thumbs up and likes and applause. And how do you get away from that to just what's good for you?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, how do you get away with that to just know what's good for you?
You got to know you. It's taking time and working. Like she said, make changes, but work on you. And the more you do that, the harder it is to find what it is that you want. And I that's just reality. I've dated quite a few, and I can say that there was times when my picker was jacked. My perception of things was skewed, but my baseline of what I desired was still the same. And either they Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, or at that time in life, I was in love with the ideal of something more than the actual person. So time was a factor. Okay. But it's harder, like when you become more healed, when you become more evolved, when you become more self-aware, you become like rock climbing girl. And I guess we're going to give her credit where credit is due.
She coming out as one of the winners now.
I swear, man. No, I still don't think she understood the assignment.
She's before her time.
I stand by that. I still don't think she understood the assignment of a good man in general. But for her, that word, it becomes more challenging. And I say that because I feel like my last relationship, he was ideally that checklist of things. And it boiled down to the compatibility portion with us, because he was a great guy, would have been a great husband, great father, all of those amazing things. But we had some fundamental things that just for a long term was not going to work. He made my skin itch. And if he wasn't here, he'd know I love him to death. And I told him this, but I did it in a loving and kind way. But yeah, sometimes it's just harder when you get to that place of, luckily, it's just like Shonda had the Sierra Russell Wilson story. She went from Future to her dream guy. It's hard in these streets. I'm just going to say that. Even when you know what you want, you're telling them what you want, you don't expect them to read your mind. It's hard in these streets.
Wow.
Is it his fault for making your skin itch, or was your fault for not having lotion?
You know what? It might have been me missing the shea butter some days, but
Okay.
most days it was whatever he put in the shea butter he got me.
Okay.
So Kendra, in that same vein, with the standards and creating a standards, and obviously this is what this is a baseline for. This, if anybody's able to see this or read this, these women created these top 5, and some of them had 20. I'm just gonna be candid. Some of them had 20. I took the top 5, but they had a laundry list of things because women want everything. And the concept of when you have to say these are must-haves. I need this to be me and the best me possible. That's not going to be the same for every woman. And we understand that. But in the idea of standards, how flexible or how prescriptive should standards be if you really want to get to where you're trying to go?
So I'm going to say this because I'm learning this about myself in the past probably 4 years. One, I had to get to the point, I agree with Shonda. One, I had to evaluate myself. I knew what I wanted in a guy. I didn't quite know how to articulate it, but I had an idea. I had a vision board, I will say, of what I wanted in a guy. When I took a look at myself in the mirror, there was some insecurities within myself I had to be honest with, that I was like, I'm not going to get that type of guy. Now, he might look at me and think I'm that person, but I'm not going to be able to keep him. So there are some things I had to work on myself. One being definitely my mouth. I just knew it. So that was one. Two, I had to quit lying to myself about the type of guy I wanted. So I had all these things of what my family wanted me to have, what my girls thought I should have. Even the guys I was with thought, oh, but when I look back over my journey, I didn't have a type. So I had to really be honest about, okay, what do you want? What's going to make you happy? And I keep that to myself for the most part. I did this, but what I know what I want, yeah. And I get it because there are things on that list in my mind that I know my family is not gonna be able to handle. Or I know my girl's gonna be like, I don't understand it. That's not for you to understand. So I have to stick to that. The other thing that I really just realized about myself is I have to let go of I call it pre-existing red flags. So I've met people where automatically, just based on just certain stereotypes, I'm like, that's a red flag. But they haven't even shown me that that is a red flag for them. Now, it may be for somebody else. And I'll just give a blanket example. I'm tall. So my pre-existing red flag is, I'm not going to date nobody that's short because he's going to be intimidated by me when I wear heels. That's not necessarily true. Let me meet this guy, see if he can handle me being tall. So I'm trying to navigate that piece of it as well, that, I may have these pre-existing red flags, but until he shows me it's a red flag, it's not a red flag. So that's
I know he got a gang of questions for you because I just know how he works. So Jazz, you can go ahead, but then I'll let him kick in.
I was gonna say I can attest to that. I'm not as tall as Kendra, but same. I've dated guys where I gave some grace in that because of my preference. And see, it's a difference of what you absolutely need and what your standards are and what your preference is. And I think that sometimes gets convoluted. But my preference, obviously, is someone taller, a lot taller, even with heels. So you give some grace because you meet a guy that meets those other characteristics. And so you're like, okay. But then, like Kendra said, they rise to the challenge or they don't. So I definitely understand where she's coming from on that.
I got a question I want to say before you jump in, bro. I don't understand the difference between what you want and what you want, because you said your standards and your preference are different, but I can't wrap my head around that.
Quick way to answer that: one versus a need. So what I absolutely know that I need, what I want. So your needs should trump, or I don't know why I use his name, period. They should take precedence to your wants, but your wants are important too.
Understood.
Because your wants start to tempt you, and then that's when you have to decide, like, okay, because your wants will have you in situations you don't even need to be in. But your needs, you have to go back to, this is what I need. Your want will have you putting up with bullshit
I
just
mean,
because it's your
yeah,
want.
Right.
But
as
your
simple as
need,
yeah.
and it's as simple as when you see, like, I've heard a guy say this, and this is very much true. A woman will allow a man who's attractive to get away with more shit than a man that's maybe she's not as attractive to.
Mm-hmm.
Because her want is, yeah, he's fine, he's this, he's that, or he's a provider.
Mm-hmm.
He had, meaning he, he's financially taking
Mm-hmm.
care of her.
Mm-hmm.
And she's allowing that more. But like you said, he could be an asshole,
Mm-hmm.
but let him be, making only 40,000 and treating her well. She'll still want to deal with the dude based on what she wants compared to what she needs. So that's where it gets a little convoluted, and women start lying to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So basically, I just gotta applaud people, because that's what I was thinking pretty much. And she said she's already, I think Jazz said she was getting to know herself, or the most important thing was to know yourself. And then the red flags that Kendra was talking about, like she gave the red flags based on what she thought they was thinking in the past. So now she cleared that up. She has patience to find out what they're thinking first, and then see where it goes. So I don't have a lot of questions about that. I do have a question about seeing this loyalty pretty much on everybody's list. So I don't know what faith everybody is, but I think people know that people aren't perfect. So is 99.9% loyalty okay? Or do they have to be 100% loyal?
I think the 99 point, if people are real and not lying to themselves, 99.9%, because a woman will take a man back that cheats.
And I think you got to give grace for people being human. People make mistakes. So you're asking for a unicorn, and we all know those don't exist. So, if you were saying I don't need somebody 100% loyal, then you look in the mirror. Are you 100% loyal to yourself? 9 times 10, no, you're probably not.
This is a whole. This is going to translate into a whole nother show, because I do believe so. And ironically and unfortunately, the maturity aspect of it comes into place, but the self-discipline aspect comes into play, because loyalty is a construct of self-discipline. In the idea of, I know what would make her, I know what would shame her, I know what would hurt her, and I have to be disciplined enough to not be distracted by things that I know mean us no good. And so that's where the disciplined dynamic came into, and that I'm glad I put that word there, because if I'd put loyalty, we wouldn't have been able to get so deep into it. But the concept of loyalty, I would love to know. Like I said, it's probably a whole nother show. How far that branches out, and the percentages of that, because I feel like we talk about financial infidelity and emotional infidelity and sexual infidelity and all these different things that could betray the fidelity of the relationship. And I think loyalty comes in all encompassing in that regard, because if he's saying he at work and he really out at a poker game, that's not being disloyal to me. That's being dishonest, but it's not being disloyal. And I know all of these words tend to kind of blend in when we talk about a good person, but the bad part about it is when you talk about men and trying to construct themselves, especially young men, trying to construct themselves in a way that can make them more marketable to a upstanding woman or to a good woman, then they have to make sure that they qualify for these things. And as we see by the list, they all over the place. But when y'all talk about the 99% loyal, I think that I don't want to give the impression that a good woman is going to give you a mulligan, because I know for me, being with a good woman, I don't have that. Y'all can set my ass up if y'all want to, and I'm stupid for following it with a bunch of excuses after I done fucked up, and then be like, hey, I had heard one place that 99% was good.
But no, we weren't looking at you in that aspect and physical. We just talking about loyalty and all of the the areas that you mentioned, so financial and all that
I
stuff.
understand, but I'm just
So
making sure for a listener that's like myself, don't think that what they say.
even
You can run back
discipline
and tell that.
Let's go back to
discipline
that.
is
Know
not
your
100%.
audience.
Yeah, discipline
Okay.
is not 100%.
Exactly.
I just want people to know none of these good qualities. If you got a dude who's doing this 90% of the time, that's still a good dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are you mad at a dude? Okay, go ahead.
I don't like that, bro. I don't. Let me explain why. Because obviously, if we just do simple math, you're talking about 20%. It's 5 categories, right? So we talk about 20% of what you bring is one of these 5, right? And so, in the idea of if you take money out of there, it fuck up the whole 5. Let's just keep it real, right? If you take trust, so this woman, 40 number 3, had trustworthy, intelligent, and I don't know the exact words, but it made me put honest here anyway. And that's because she was extreme. Trust me, in her soliloquy, she was so battered that honesty and trustworthiness had to be highlighted because she had been run through and done dirty.
Yep.
And he had to be intelligent and family oriented and have money or have a provision for her. But the reality of it is, I think that I was under the impression when I asked the question or when the question was posed is that you have a series of things in life that are non-start. They must happen. This has to happen before I could even think about settling in or having a life with you. These aren't ambiguous. These aren't subjective. It's got to be the case. You can't have been a pedophile. You can't be a registered sex offender, right? Like there's certain things, regardless of the scenario, and if somebody sets you up, you can't do this or have that in order to be with somebody like me because of my standards for myself. These are the things that I only accept applications for, right? And so in the concept of need not apply if you're not trustworthy, intelligent, honest, family-oriented, or have money. Need not apply if you're not self-disciplined, kind, selfless, driven, and God-fearing. Obviously, that doesn't work for everybody. Somebody wants patient, loyal communication because there was no communication in number 10, right? She needs you to be these things without really letting her know. Like she don't need to be but you have some women, honestly, and I have women that I am close to that tell me communication, and it's so funny because in the 40s communication ranked real low, but communication is more important than anything. They need to know what's going on and know where they stand and all this and all that. But when you ask these women up front, what are your top 5 in the 50s? When we get to the 50s, you'll see this as well. Communication didn't even exist. It didn't even exist. They don't. Ignorance is bliss.
Product of they just like driven. They think you should be drove by the 30s and 40s. So by the 50s, they think we should know each other by then. Right.
But these are things that you're looking for in a man, whether you have that man currently in possession or you're searching for that man to come find you as a good wife or a good thing. I'm sorry. These are things that are supposed to be baked in. And I'm just saying that that's short-sighted. I know we're coming to the close on this, but I will ask the 40-year-olds, what are your top 5 now? So, Kendra, you can go first on your top 5 now.
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, she might be. Well, go ahead, Shonda. You go first. What's your top 5 now?
The same as in my 40s.
In your 40s? No, that's what I'm saying. Your 40s. What is your top 5 now? It's not the same as in your 30s because I can read them joints. God-fearing, hardworking family.
Mm-hmm.
Shonda.
Why you say her name like that?
Yeah, what am I missing?
I'm about to pull the beer at 10:30.
So Shonda, 90% of women think that it's okay for them to hide money, but not for the man to hide money. Do you agree with that?
To hide money.
Money. That's what he said. You can say the words again if you want to.
90% of women think it's okay for them to hide money, their checks, their whatever they want to do with their money, but it's not okay for their partner, spouse to hide money.
And you're asking me, are they right? Because I don't think
yes.
I'm just asking, do you agree with
No,
Do
you
you
shouldn't
agree?
be hiding money from each other. Why?
Such a dude.
Let me have this. Shonda, your number 3 behind God-fearing and hardworking was family. Have you ever caused a rift? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you want me to put them in order?
No. Yes, but no, you said them in order. It's too late now. Family is
God.
on there. We'll cut to the chase. Family is on there of what you need in a good man, right?
Mhm.
Have you ever caused any distance between your good man and his family?
You acting like you did an investigation.
This sounds like an interrogation.
It
What
does.
happened?
Right. That
No,
light
I
was
have a
hot.
distance. I have a distance with some people in his family, but I don't cause a distance for him. I don't think so.
Totally
Shonda, you
understand that.
bought
Look,
the
wait.
beer at 10:30.
right. This is another minute. See, these are old movies. Shonda, let me ask you another question. That's not that question. If you don't fuck with the person, does your husband fuck with the person?
Now you know.
Shonda, what would you prefer
That's
here?
not family though. You said family.
Okay, cool.
Did you not? You said family.
Okay, cool. So do you have a problem with your husband fooling with family that you can't stand, don't mean him no good, and they try to drain y'all?
No, I can't say that I do.
Thank you. Okay, we can move on. We can move on. Ain't no need to drain this. We can move on. Thank you. Oh, I don't need y'all miseducating these young women. Miseducating them. Kendra, can you give me your real 40 top 5?
Yep.
Cool.
I think I'm okay. So by this point, I done found Jesus because y'all know I didn't have him in 20s and 30s.
Okay.
So God fearing
Okay.
is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Intelligence is number 1.5. Like
Okay.
it ain't even number 2.
All right.
3 is communication.
Okay.
4, I'm gonna say, I know honest is on it, but I just feel like that's just some common sense shit. So 4 is still hardworking.
Okay.
And number 5 is gonna be I'm gonna say commitment.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you have God-fearing, intelligent, communication, hardworking, and committed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in your 40s, that's what you feel like is going to take you on to the next level. Okay, and so and I won't do you the disservice of asking you to project into the future because who knows what the future holds, Jazz. But I'm sure this will come up in a later, conversation that we may have. But with that assessment, we'll finish with the 50s. And it was only 2 people that we, polled in the 50s. And 50 number 1 said respectful, funny, loyal, confident, and handsome. And 50 number 2 said honest, stability, consistency, loyalty, and muscles. So I don't know if handsome and muscles mean the same thing to women. Can y'all explain that to me?
No.
Okay, cool.
Not to me, it don't. I mean, he can
Not
have
to me either.
Jonathan Majors got muscles, but he not handsome to me.
Okay. Shots fired.
Well,
Cool.
maybe she meant because he's older. Maybe she meant because he's older. Just the skin tends to sag, so maybe just be fit. I don't know.
I don't think they mean the same
Did she
thing,
say he
but
needs
I
to be
get.
thick?
Yeah, she said muscles. So I don't know if these
I don't
swimmers'
know.
muscles. I don't know if these Michael Phelps muscles or Michael Myers muscles.
Does she own a moving company? Like what does she
Man,
need lifted?
But at 50, she want what she want and she know what she want.
What
But
are the
for her,
muscles
but for
used
that
for?
woman, muscles could be handsome for her. So I don't think that they mean the same thing because, like Kendra said, there's some very muscular guys that are not the most attractive guys. But for this woman, muscles might be what's attractive for her. She might not care what the face look like. If they got muscles, they sexy for her.
Right. I will say that one thing that stood out here was that she said confident. And unfortunately, if I had a top 5 list that I had developed for myself, I would have not made none of these women happy, number one. Even the one that I'm married to that answered here, I can't make her happy based on this list. But because it's ironic that confident was only on here one time. And I always was under the impression that women, like Kendra said, swag earlier. And none of those sentiments were intimated in what we what these women described, and that kind of threw me off. Another thing is, and you guys have the ability to see the list, respectful is sprinkled throughout here, but it was very reassuring for me that many women either didn't feel disrespected. Now, and funny thing is, in the 20s, it was heavy. Respectful came up 2 out of 3. And it came up less and less as they got older. And the idea, I would think that people don't feel as disrespected, or they don't feel like respect is a qualification that you have to come in with. Or, like you ladies have been teaching me, some stuff is just a given. Like some stuff I don't have to say, and so my mind don't even go there. It's not until I read something like this and see it where I say, wait a second, I do want somebody. Now, I don't humble. That's crazy to me. I do, because humble and confident are the same thing.
Crazy?
Because humble and confident are not good bedfellows. They're not good bedfellows. You having a sense of aspiration. This is what humble is. Humble is, you know your place. You fall back. You don't overstep. And aspirational is you go for it. You don't know your place because you're trying to get to the next place.
Is humble something that y'all desire?
Yeah.
So,
I think the humble piece is maybe she dealt with somebody who was arrogant
Yes.
and cocky.
Okay.
And so you don't want that. And I think sometimes guys, I'm just going to say people, not guys, people think, oh, if I'm confident, and you're not, it's not that you're confident, you're arrogant. There's a difference.
Correct.
So,
There is.
So I think that's where the humble piece probably came in for her in that sense. The lady that says she wants someone that wanted the confident person, I'm curious to know where she's at in her career life, because, or where she looks like physically, because maybe she's meeting guys who are, and I'm going to use air quotes, intimidated by her.
Man, we
So
hear that.
maybe
Listen
she's
to
an
me.
alpha
We hear that all
woman.
the
That's
time.
another one. Yeah,
Man, we hear that all the. So
But
we work in
one
a corporate
thing-
environment, and what we hear from women when we used to be at work having these type of conversations is, all the single ladies would say, men are so intimidated by me. Like they would throw that out there so frequently, to the point where it became, wait a second. So you putting yourself in environments where every dude is less than you? Every place you go, not damn dude that you run into would think that what you got is table stakes, or what you got is all right. Even I feel like I live a good life in a good place, but I told my boy, on the call, bro, it's people that will kill themselves if they live like us. If they lived in less than 3,500 square feet, they would be like, oh, I might as well die. If they don't have drivers, if they don't have private jet access, or it's all relative. Money is relative. Happiness is somewhat relative. Success is absolutely relative. And so the idea of this concept where men are being intimidated, you hunting, you fishing, you said I can't catch no big fish, and I tell you take me fishing, and we pull up to a pond. What did you think was going to happen here? We don't need no boat. I can stand out in this. Right. You're not going to catch a big fish because you're in a small pond. I think that the great conversation to be had is, what are you expressing to the world and expressing to men to catch the type of man or attract the type of man? And what will lead into, and what I'll close this out with, because once again, I don't want y'all to project y'all femininity into y'all 50s. That's disrespectful, and it is not a good conversation to be had. But I would like for him to tell me his perspective on the Bible verse about finding a wife.
You want me to tell you?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Because I think it's powerful as hell, especially in this context.
So I don't know where you're going with this, but I'm just tell you.
Yes, sir. I know you would.
I think that a lot of women misconstrued, because they say, oh, well, once you propose to me, then I'll start acting like, then I'll start communicating, then I'll start following, submitting, and all that stuff. I think when he finds the woman, she's already a wife.
I agree.
So when he finds her, then he finds a good thing. All the ceremony and all that stuff is just ritual, ceremonial. I also think when she finds a husband, which it doesn't say in the Bible, she also finds a great thing. That's a
Mhm.
protector. That's a provider.
Hmm.
It doesn't say that because we thinking it's just table stakes. Of course you should know this, but a lot of people don't know that. And I think a powerful verse in there is submit to your own husband. A lot of men say you're supposed to submit to me because of that. No, you're supposed to submit to each other. But
Right.
a
Mhm.
lot of women struggle with submit to your own husband and start submitting to other men, preachers, mechanics, whoever else you think is in power, and don't even listen to your own man.
Mm. That's deep.
So, and with that being said, I also am of the belief that it is very difficult, not impossible. And you have to make a determination as to how hard you want it to be for yourself. But it's very, very difficult to find love in a storm of transition. And so the idea, Jazz said yesterday, you got to commune with yourself, spend time with yourself. I think that
Mhm.
if you have self-actualized goals or aspirations, you have to settle on those, or you have to be so overtly communicative with that person that once you get with them, if I'm not with my spouse and I am on the market, I'm not even talking to, I am too good to entertain someone in transition at this point in time. Either they're valuable enough for me to wait for them to arrive, or it's not meant to be. Those are my only options because things are volatile. We talked about y'all maturing through y'all lives from y'all 20s to y'all 30s. And of course, this is decades at a time, but you'll get where I'm saying when I get there. The fact is, y'all have changed over time. Y'all have evolved. Y'all have grown. Y'all have matured. And to hope that we vibrate at the same frequency week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out, and I'm coming to you and you're tuning your instrument, I can't get on the same wavelength as you. I can't vibe with you, especially if my instrument is tuned. There's a lot more patience, especially as an established older man. When I was younger, I had the ability to have band practice with women and we tune our instruments together and hope that it sounds good one day. But now that my sax is my sax, I can't come in and blow with somebody that's still tuning. And women have to understand that. But a lot of women feel like you should understand life happens and it's not been fair and all these other things have occurred. And I understand how life works because I'm living it. But for me to inherit the fact that you aren't where you'd like to be or want to be, what I should do is give you the grace and the support and the encouragement to go find that. And once you've captured that brass ring, come back and say, I've learned so much in my journey. I've been undistracted and undeterred. And this is what I wanted. Now I'm ready to fill in the blank. It's just like a corporate woman that goes after her career before she has children and then hope that she can in vitro the shit, you know what I'm saying, later. That's a good path if that's your hustle because you was putting the right thing in the right place for you. But then you have some women that say, I want to get the family out the way, then go to school. They, hustle it in reverse. But whatever your journey is, you have to abide by and embrace your journey, not for public consumption, not for the sake of what this guy might think if I happen to run into this guy that does all these things and is gluten-free and has a black belt in something and blah, blah, blah. But what's going to make me happy, because happiness in itself is extremely gravitational. It's extremely wonderful to have a conversation with someone who good with they self. It's nothing like it. When you meet somebody that's like really cool and really good with they self, you're like, man, I like that on you. I like that odor. That's the best cologne that you can wear as a man. And so for all the fellas that listen to this and have dug in for the last couple hours, women don't necessarily all agree. Even smart women like the ones we have here, even women that have done something in their life and seen some things, they have nuances about themes where, yeah, that might apply to her. The greatest thing that happened on this call was rock climber, gluten-free, no kids, non-controlling traveler got her fucking grace, because the one thing that she did abide by was a grown woman knows what she wants. She's not in transition. She's there and waiting for you to come and find her to find it the good thing. And that was the point that I definitely wanted to make. I know we went a long way to get it, but I think it's very, very important, because young brothers out there that's hearing, ain't no good dudes, they all married and gay, or married or gay, excuse me. They all married or gay. Thank you for correcting that. They all married or gay. But don't get discouraged, because the ones who know themselves and know what they expect and have settled into the baseline of who they want to be when they grow up, they are available and they're making themselves ready for you, but you can't come in with a lot of the qualifications that are antithetical to the things that we have. You can't be dishonest, and you can't act like, you can't have aspirational conversations with her. You have to come in ready, and you have to come in willing to stand up and hang up, you know what I'm saying, on that bullshit, and not allow for her to distract y'all from where you're trying to go or where you see the potential in your relationship. And so that's definitely a point I wanted to make, and I'm glad that y'all was able to give that. This is something we could have talked about for hours and hours, and we could have went through piece by piece. And I knew that at the time, but I also want to be considerate to y'all, Sundays and y'all time, to make sure that we got this in and get y'all true perspectives on it. So I learned a lot. I didn't know if I would, but I figured I'd learn something. But there's been some good nuggets that came out of here that probably will lead to other shows that y'all be invited back for. So I just wanted to thank y'all and then let him, tell y'all what he thinks about his point.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank y'all for y'all perspective. Sometimes when y'all give points, it makes us feel like we're not insane, because I feel like money should have been on here too. But the way y'all expressed, even at the opening, there's no way James in Florida could have been happy because he didn't have that money. Money, you need to be driven and have money to get to happiness. That's one of the key things. So I appreciate all of y'all's perspectives and letting us know how y'all think. I think communication was another big point that I'm taking away. So even if your point or your top 5 or top 10, whatever the relationship calls for, changes, hopefully y'all communicate that, hey, my top 5 changed and here's what it is.
Right.
And
that
then,
was interesting.
Yeah. So that's a way I think we both, men and ladies, can take that away. And for the relationship, maybe annually review, hey, your top 5 still the same? Or
Right.
what's going on?
Right. So what I'd like to do, though, to close out is I'd like to do a round table kind of roll call and just ask you guys in order from top to bottom, what did you want the audience, whether it be women or men or whatever the case may be, future mentees, what would you like for them to take away from this particular podcast? So Shonda, if you could tell me, what would you like for to be the theme that people walk away with more than anything else?
If they have a chance to look at this list, if it pulls up and go over it and go back to, what was that, 30 number 8?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're gonna be shocked just like most of us was. But once we, heard and why she picked those reasons, it just goes back to knowing what you want. And obviously she's done the work on herself. She knows what was good for her, what wasn't. And that was her list. And ultimately it's all about, what do you want? You got to know what you want in order for you to be happy with somebody, or with somebody to be happy with you. So.
Understood. And Kendra, and then I'll add to that, because y'all said there's a transition. So if you think you're going to have your 50-year-old wants and everything established, kind of like what he was saying, in your 20s, stop thinking that's done. Don't set yourself up for that type of anguish, because you're going to evolve. You're going to change. You got to give yourself grace. Kendra, what would you say you want the audience to walk away with more than anything else?
That you have to be flexible in your journey. I mean, stand on business as far as your standards, know what you want, and make sure that whatever your standards are, that you can meet them as well. So I think a lot of times people go in this type of person, but you are not at the level to even attract or keep that person. So work on you. And the other thing that I tell people when they meet me, do not come at me with this cookie cutter mentality. What you did for the last 15, 20 women you had, I guarantee you it's not going to work on me. So I don't approach, when I'm dealing with a guy, I don't approach it like I approach him as a new person. I am getting to learn him, his little ways, his likes, his dislikes. I ask the same for me. There may be little things like, oh yeah, that worked with the last woman, blah, blah, blah. But no, go in it to the relationship with open eyes. Be, willing to learn that person and truly, take the time to know them, because like you said, this list shows that women are different, men are different. And so you can't just assume like, oh, I get we all have triggers, but I've just dealt with somebody like, oh, you just, you said this just like the last person, but I didn't mean the same thing that the last person said. So you people have to, kind of get therapy and quit dealing, I'm gonna say that. Never mind. That's another podcast, but okay.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
All right, and Jazz, close us out with what you would like for people to walk away with, or something that highlights what you picked up from this conversation.
I think it resonates with what both Shonda and Kendra said, but knowing yourself. So being honest with the person you're looking in the mirror at, and being honest with the person that you're wanting to be your partner, go through life with. And as we've all said, have grace, whether your list has changed and whether your list is the same. Have grace that people evolve and change, and allow a person to do those things. And like you said, do reassessments, check back in. And are we still at that same place if we're not? But you have to be honest with yourself about things. And that's the biggest thing that I feel a lot of people are not honest with themselves or others. And so you can't get to that bottom line of what your finish line is when you're not. And also being that what you project, what you want attract, be that as well. Kendra said that very clearly. And I think a lot of times we forget that. You can't get what you want out here, like you said with the ocean analogy, in a pond. So, yeah.
I'll say this, and then I'll let you close, because it reminded me of a quote that I had heard, and I'll try to remember it to the best of my ability. I've tried to be consistent throughout my life, and luckily I had a good support system and wasn't distracted from what I was trying to accomplish. And then when I found a good thing, she was on the same wavelength as me, so I didn't have to diverge too much. But the quote that was impactful was, I always pretended to be someone I wanted to be until I finally became that someone, or he became me. So consistency is going to get you a long way when it comes to the late days. It's going to get you a long way, because now she know what she got, and she, she can deal with it. And like y'all said, that's the 99% loyalty. But the fact is, if you are who you are and you are always that person, she at least know what she fucking with, and she can make determinations at that point. But it's when you all over the place and inconsistent and unstable and undisciplined and all that causes the most confusion. And if you look at all the relationships that don't make it, it's a level of inconsistency that occurred, or some kind of miscommunication or something, where nobody can really feel comfortable betting on something in the future because of that lack of not making sure you were always trying to be him, if not already being him. And that is going to be very important to the brothers that's listening to this. But that's my point.
Hey, so
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, everybody made good points. I appreciate everybody. And I don't have a point because you stole my point. I was going to say none of this is possible without showing some effort. So laziness gets you nowhere on any of this stuff. And some complacency is the killer of relationships. So I appreciate everyone.
Yep. Can I have one request?
Yeah.
Can y'all do this, but on the male version? I'm curious to know what top 5 things males want, and if they are as all over the place as we are, because my theory is they are. But I also think their list is shorter than ours too.
Man, so I can tell you this from living this for a long time and talking to dudes. Dudes is so much less nuanced and more simple. And it was I won't say the joke about just make a sandwich and shut the fuck up. It's really just a couple things that men require in women. But just remember, I had a call earlier this week where I talked about the nuances of men and women, and that fact that women get all dressed up and they spend a lot of time on makeup and hair and lashes and nails and all this and all that. And they have to understand women do that for other women. No dude has ever came and complimented your lashes, ever, right? So the concept of, and men dress for what a woman will allow them to get away with. There's certain things I'm not leaving. She's not going to let me leave like that. Like we're not going there. Like I would like to dress as comfortable, cool, and relaxed as possible, but I know I'm not going to be able to not hear it if I do that. So I just want peace and balance. And so when you say, what does a man want? A man wants what works. most of the time. And when I say most of the time, that's where the 99% come in at. So if you got a chick that's smoking, drinking, and chilling, and you want a chick that's smoking, drinking, and chilling, you don't want her to find Jesus. That's confusing. If you got a chick that love to go and do and like to be at the club and this and that, and then all of a sudden she get old and want to settle down, or like Shonda say, her knees too bad to be bending and taking pictures, you got to have a real evaluation of, hold up, that's not who I married. So a lot of times it's men want not only women that can grow with them, but women that can lead them. You said something early on where in the beginning, God-fearing wasn't a thing. I would hope by the time 20 years that went by, God-fearing is a thing because I've led him to God. I've led us to God. Men want to be led in a proper sense of not being dominated, but men are the head and women are the neck. And so women have to then embrace the fact that I have this guy who has the potential to be a great, great man based off of these qualifications. I have to water the hell out of that and nurture the hell out of that and make sure I'm not the reason why he's not growing in this pot, why he's not growing in this pond, and I'm not digging it to make it a lake and digging it to make it an ocean so he could be a big fish. And so I will say from my perspective, I'll let you go, cuz on this, from my perspective, the greatest asset to a man is a woman that's unafraid to listen to his attributes and abilities and then challenge and nurture his greatness. The problem is you get a woman that's got a dude, and we've had this conversation before, that was born in Compton, and you want him to be the senator of California and later the president of the United States, and you putting all that on him, and he was born and raised in Compton. Like it's, and unfortunately, women love projects. And that is one of the most confusing things, and why we did this list is because we don't know what you want in the first place. But then when you get in and have and reserve the right, I'm using my quotation figures there, reserve the right to change your mind. That's devastating. But what do you think men want, bro?
Ooh, I think we have to do the survey,
Okay.
and I think
Thank
if
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
we
I
will do
agree.
the
Thank you.
survey. So,
Okay.
in short, I think you're right with the piece,
Mhm.
but there are some nuances according to dudes and how they were raised and where they were raised.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But
In their background.
so
Yep.
y'all stay tuned for that.
Thank you.
I could go
Please,
on.
please.
And so anybody listening, put in the comments any type of way we can connect with the man, or put your information in the comments and say your age range of the top 5 things you want in a woman. And that we'll add that to it, and then we'll create a compilation like we did here and score it and everything, and then come out with top 5 and some honorable mentions. And then we'll be able to see not only from the audience, but from people that we reach out to, what the consensus is as far as what men think they want in women. But I can tell you, it's like you said, it's not going to be as despondent as this. It's not going to be all over the place, but it's also going to be really some things that are maybe too simple, maybe too easy, maybe more looks and physical stuff will be applied. I'm pretty sure of that. It's going to be more physical things than anything else, and more mannerism type of things that's listed. But I am very, very interested in that as well. I just know that it definitely won't be as entertaining because women have so much more creativity and imagination. They just do.
Oh, you will be surprised. 'Cause it's some, yeah.
I
I
don't
just
really
want to know
want them
what they
dudes.
think.
I don't
and what,
really want them new dudes.
I want to know what they
This concludes another episode of the Hollow Points Podcast, where we act as your therapeutic outlet on topics many think about but are afraid to speak on.
Oh, you're welcome.